Peggy is a pragmatic, reality-based facilitator that connects and engages with her audiences immediately. She lives what she speaks and speaks what she lives, impacting individuals on a human level. Peggy has a natural ability to connect with people. Peggy's professional career that began over 23 years ago in the hospitality industry, where she started as a frontline worker and then evolved into a successful entrepreneur. She's been voted one of Medicine Hat's top 50 under 50 entrepreneurs in 2014. Her passion for excellence in customer service, creative problem solving, and genuine desire to work with people, and over 5 years of formal education at Medicine Hat College, led Peggy into the field of human services and employment. Since graduating from the Medicine Hat College, Peggy has become a qualified instructor for Myers-Briggs, a certified personality dimensions trainer, a certified life coach skills trainer, and a member of the Speakers Bureau of Alberta. So please join me in welcoming Len and Peggy.
Okay, so like Len, a lot of the stuff Len said about the structural, I'm going to build on about the human end of it. So I want to begin by saying that I would never use Myers-Briggs as a hiring tool. I've been doing type for 23 years, and if people were coming in for an interview and they needed to do a type tool, they're going to answer the way they think you want them to answer. They are not going to be honest. Even now, working with people, I would say the first time somebody does type, the stats would probably be 30 to 40% don't type accurately. It's a really tough thing. So we don't want to use this as a tool, but we want to use it within your structure that you have now. So the question, which way? There we go. So what we're going to look at in the agenda is understanding what you need in your company. So are you guys finding with this market today, it's really easy to find the employees?
It is easier for us, actually.
Easier for you? How about the rest of you?
Government wages are not competitive.
Okay.
To the private, so yes, it is actually.
Yeah, so for you it's easier, I see. No, yeah. And that's what we're finding.
It's easier to find bodies. It's easier to find the right body.
Yes, and that's exactly it. It's actually amazing the amount of turnover that's still happening. People walking off jobs, not staying in them. You would think at this time that people would be hanging on to them. But although we have a larger pool of unemployed, we are still missing a skilled market in areas. So we're still seeing that people are struggling to fill those spots, definitely. So we're gonna look at your need, understanding what you want, and the job, looking at the job descriptions that you write, then looking at the type of person that you would want in there as well as the type you already have in your organization. What is it your existing resources are? So using the right bait to get the right people, and I'll give you an example of that. I have a girlfriend who's pretty consistently gone into the wrong job. And if there's anything I know about employment, people don't stay for money. They don't stay for anything. When it's the wrong job, it's like torture every day, so they leave. So she left her job recently and she brought us the ad for the job. The ad talked about having good communication skills, being a team player, be able to do some marketing, things like that. The reality of the job, it was 30 hours spent alone out of 40 hours a week. It said nothing about that. It didn't say need to be able to work in an environment by yourself. You wouldn't even know from the job ad that that's what was required. So you need to also recognize what you're putting out there. And in order to do that, then you could look at the personalities you already have to get the right person. So that's our agenda. And that seems long, it's not gonna be that long. Okay, right way. So you guys already did this, so we don't need to do that. So let's look at your existing resources. So what's your process now? When you need to hire, or do you just fill that position that the person left, or what do you guys do currently to fill that spot? Somebody's leaving.
Look to see if you can fill it internally first.
Okay, so internally fixing, or filling it, yeah. What do you guys do?
Determine if it's the same role you need to fill.
Right, because just because somebody else did it doesn't mean that roles remain the same, right? Because how many times have you started in a role and it starts to change? And by the time you've entered into that role and by the time you leave, the job is very different. So you want to look at defining what are the skills, what are the responsibilities. And then more importantly, you want to look at your team dynamics. How do we work together? What is it that we need to feel? How do we want to get along? What's the culture and things like that? So when we look at type, each type has a different strength and a different weakness. So you've all done the exercise of writing your name with the right hand and then the non-dominant hand. Have you done that? I want you to do it again. I want you to sign your signature, just using your dominant hand, anywhere on something you've got there. How much thought process does that take? None, right? Do it again with your eyes closed, same hand. How is it? Pretty well the same? That's because it's natural. So again, when you're looking to fill roles, you're looking to bring in somebody who's very natural with those skills. Now do it with the other hand and your eyes open so nobody gets stabbed. How much thought process does that require?
I feel like I've been drinking.
Well, that's maybe not a bad thing. What does that require?
Total concentration.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what happens when we put people in the wrong roles. So, one of the major reasons I wanted to go into business was I am not your Monday to Friday typical worker. I never have been. And I didn't know that until I did type. And once I did type, I realized that I would never be able to work in those environments. I also have another whole career in trades and construction and remodeling. And that's how I work best. I work best doing two things. I have a very wonderful partner who understands that's how I work, possibly because she was my boss for many years to begin with. So in being able to get into a job where I was able to use my flexibility, my crisis management, my motivating, all my top skills is how I've been able to get where I am. I would have never last, but had I gone to a company that really wanted to stifle me and not let me grow, I wouldn't have remained there. So the first place you need to look is internal. Who's in there that really has the skill? Who's got that set? Who's gonna write with their dominant hand? And who do we already have on our team? So I'm just gonna get you to hand out those Myers-Briggs ones. You're gonna get, actually give both of them. I'm gonna give you 2 handouts. So the other thing you need to really recognize that's important to people is what are the values of your organization? Yeah, both, you can give them both out to them, sure. Yeah, then we'll use them when we do. So it isn't just about what you need in business, but the type of person you want, or more precisely, how you want your organization to look. Again, I would say what we've looked at for our organization is pretty self-directed people. People also working in their strengths areas, but being self-directed because they're motivated and they're happy with what they're doing. So great managers look at the people they have and put them in the right roles. So have you had anybody in your organization that is not enjoying their current roles, but they're there because they need a job? Yeah. So how's that working? Yeah, it doesn't work. It's a short-term thing. So what I want you to do first, I want you to go into your groups, and I want you to talk about what's the value of your company? What is your company value? What's your communication style in your company? Because you're all in it together, so be aware of that. So just discuss in it the values, or you talk about your mission statement, the same thing. What are the values that you have within your company that when I come in to work on your team, that I can recognize that's valuable? That's important to this organization. So when I'm walking in there, I know that you guys value open communication. Can I see that? Yeah, I can see that because as I walk through the organization, I see doors open, I see people communicating. Or I've been to companies where the value is, it doesn't matter that your office is next door, I want you to email me. So there's very different values in companies. So talk about your own in your groups. So put your heads together and share how you see your company's values. That requires you guys to communicate. So hearing some comments. Is there some splits in the values in your organization? Are they different based on departments? Split values, same?
We didn't get around the whole thing.
Okay. You guys are gonna have to talk faster. And you guys, how about you, what do you guys find for the values of your company? What's the values? Are they the same for everybody, or do you think there's a misunderstanding of what it is?
We haven't got to communication. We started with the second one.
Okay. So how is the communication? Is it open communication? What kind of environments are you in for communication?
So mine's mixed.
Mixed?
Yeah, depending on time, because it's quicker to send an email and get an answer than walk somewhere and potentially waste time chit-chatting about other stuff.
Okay.
So, which isn't always good, but it's practical.
Right. Okay. Okay, so what I've given you, you have a handout, and that is showing that, believe it or not, there's 16 right ways to do things. We often think people should be like us, and this is the way to do it. When you're looking to recruit people, you need to be recruiting the right person for that. Often, what people do is they hire people just like them. Do you know why we do that?
Because we're so great.
Besides that, when you think about the whole process, whose resume is going to appeal to me the most? The one that looks like mine. I'm gonna like that. Who am I gonna communicate best with in the interview? The person who talks like me. So we have a problem of often doing that, hiring people like us, and I myself do not want to do that. I do not want 3 of me in the office, and I'm sure the staff would all agree with that. So that's where you need to step back and you look at the job descriptions. And all the job descriptions I read out there, they ask for, and you know, if you break this into 4, which you'll see you have a sheet, if you break it into 4 types, they ask for all 4. So they want somebody who's highly organized with good communication skills, able to problem solve, and good in crisis. It's 4 people. What is your major focus? So again, even when I read those ads, when I would go out to apply for facilitating positions, always said highly organized. So I would ask them, I would say to them, what do you mean highly organized? Are you talking about a filing cabinet, or are you talking about an event room? Because I can organize any event. I have never organized my filing cabinet in my 23 years. And you know what? I think I'm going to die without it being organized. So that's the important thing, is you need to look at what is that skill. So when you get into your job description, you need to, how many of you now get your staff to write their job descriptions? Have you had them do that?
Not wanting to, but that's what happens, and then it's filled out.
Okay.
We're not encouraging them, but that's a lot of the changes that have happened with our department have been employee.
Okay. So yeah, but it is a good question though to ask people, what is it you're doing? I mean, one of the things you talked about is too much work, too little work. People come in and they have roles, and then when things change, which most of us have gone through, it's probably a good idea to find out what they do. So you don't want to maybe call it a job description, but have them list their duties. So what is it you're being responsible for? And so when you go to write that job description, that you're asking for the right person. So what you have there is a short, quick definition of 16 types that I've handed out to you. That'll show you their strengths and their weaknesses, and everybody has them. Again, when I teach type, people tell me that they have no weaknesses, and and it's just not true. There's something that we all struggle with, and there's something that we're all great at. We have a greatness. And when you match that greatness to your employment, your job every day becomes better and easier. So the job description becomes really important. You need to know exactly what's the role they're going to play. So for my girlfriend, I don't know who went into that job, but if that person is outgoing and needs to communicate, they are going to be rehiring again. And that turnover just keeps happening because of that. So knowing what are the skills, what are the competency. So again, just in your group, I want you to take a minute, just less than a minute to think about it. What is your greatest skill? And share that with your group. What's your greatest skill? Were you guys able to come up with one? You guys here were you guys? So that's not that simple, right? Yet when you're putting out an ad, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that person that has the skill that you need. So again, step one to me before you hire is sit down internally and go through what you already have. What is the bucket of skills that you already have in your organization? So you're not hiring the person just like you. Because unless you're looking to leave and you're doing succession planning, you don't want you. You want what you struggle with doing. For me, that's really important. And again, once I recognize the value of type, and I know there's a lot of controversy over it, but the value of type means that person that I'm gonna hire, I'm not probably gonna be able to blend with their personality because we are day and night. But boy, do I need that person in my company. So 2 areas of my life that would not be successful at all without these tools is my marriage and working with our manager. Our manager is our opposing opposite, and that's a good thing. That doesn't mean, as you say, that sometimes you don't want to do this and bang heads together, but it makes me realize that that's her role and that's what she does, and I need to respect it. I wouldn't do it that way, but it wouldn't run as good without her. So in our business, we cover 3 areas of this chart. And we have good respect for each other and we recognize our skills are different. And in doing that, when we look at what we need to hire, which we could improve that a little bit, we maybe hire too quickly is our thing. And again, the unknown. We spend with a lot of unknown. We don't know what our business is gonna look like in 6 months yet. So we have some unknowns, so we do tend to hire quickly. But having those different types and sitting down and talking about things covers a really big area. You start to get all the good ideas. So back to that greatness. You need to know yourself well enough to know what that is. So there's colors, there's Myers-Briggs, there's other tools. As well, I have a resource I use that I've been using lately. Once you're typed, then we map out. And in mapping out means you could be missing one area. So you could be missing the behind the scenes person. Maybe all your people are up front wanting to be that front person. So then when you go to hire, you may want to look, is this something we're lacking? Or have people picked it up well enough that we can carry on this way? So what is that piece we need?
It was interesting, when I was doing my CMA there, we made us do Myers-Briggs. The whole group, there was 35 of us, and then they took the results and they put everyone into groups that had to pass the final exam based on the strategy of what they felt was best for different personalities to form that group that could pass the test. Not necessarily get along with each other, but pass the test. So we passed the test, which was really why we were all there, but none of us have talked to each other since that last day that it happened.
So do you need to communicate with them? Or
And that's the thing, our goal, and we all said that, we're not gonna like each other, you can just tell by where
Yes.
it was. But we have as a group, we have what it needs to get past a very high level exam. And
Yeah.
haven't talked to them since.
And that's true, absolutely. It does. It puts people together that are going to be able to accomplish great things. And once you have the acceptance of recognizing, I'm not like you, you're not like me, I don't need to be, I can still respect you, then things go a lot more smoothly. So, with Canalta, you've got a lot of short-term position, or a lot of short-hour positions, right? Yeah, that's a really hard thing to fill. Yeah. So, how many positions are you short right now? 30. And your turnover when you hire, how long are people?
Well, it depends. Our full-time staff's pretty good, but our casuals, we go through them, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. So again, that ad really needs to reflect that job. That job description needs to reflect how short-term that is. And I also have a bed and cook your own breakfast, and I have the same issue. How do I find a person that wants to work part-time in this slot at this time, and I have no guarantees? So it's a lot tougher for you. But again, there is a type that's more apt to do that. They're the type that's gonna have 2 or 3 small part-time jobs. Versus, if you look in just using the colors here, if you use this category, they want that consistent employment. They want to plan ahead the goals. They want Monday to Friday, that's their ideal job. I always said if the government came and said to me, oh, we got a job for you, Monday to Friday, benefits, great pay, I'm like, no, I would never last. And again, only because I know myself well, that job would be enforcing rules and paperwork. I'm not interested in either of those. I'm more of a rule breaker than I'm a rule maker. So you're looking for more, and if you look down here again, once you as a manager understand this, the P's, you're looking, in Canalta, you guys are looking for flexible people. Generally more extroverted, people who want to be out socializing, talking, or people who really just want to come to free concerts. That will also work. Okay? So that job description, look first what you have. And then get input when you're writing it to see what is it we actually need. Is it somebody we need to sit at a desk all day? Or do we need somebody who can get up and be flexible and do whatever we need? And look within first as well. Okay, so regardless of their experience, the environment matters. So, yeah, there's companies I walk into and I'm like, I would never work here. When I walk in and it's really quiet, I'm always like, what's going on? I like a noisy environment. So again, that matches who we are. And I've done a couple things with companies that I'm just like, wow, it's so quiet, I'm uncomfortable, literally. So the environment itself has a lot of weight. So I want you, again, go into your groups. What kind of environment are you working in? And is it your preference environment? Or is it just putting up with the environment because it's the one you work in? So have that discussion quickly. So does everybody here like the environment they're in currently? Yeah, if you look at the Google environment, is very different than some people would like. Some people would love the Google environment. I would fit well in there, and some people would just not be able to stand it, right? So just going through. Everybody likes the environment they're in?
Unless you're in the room with your boss or a coach.
Yeah, I think we're pretty fortunate that way too. We have a pretty open communication with our staff. So, okay, so is your environment quiet? Who's got the quiet environments? Put your hand up. Okay, and that's what you value? And you're saying you would like maybe a little bit more action in your environment? Okay, so you're in the banking industry now, by default. Okay.
I've been in finance for like 8 years, and it's one of those I'm trying to get out and try something new, and I keep falling back into the same patterns.
Okay, so I have a question for you. When you see an ad for a job and you're reading it, do you ever think, I don't know if I'm qualified for this?
All the time.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. So here's somebody who's got a lot to offer a company, but she looks at the ad and she says, I don't know if I'm qualified for this.
And when I finally took a chance and applied for something I was sure I wasn't qualified for, they took a chance on me, and then budget cuts and my role disappeared. And I lost it. And I was crushed. 5 months, lost it, crushed. And how do you explain that to an interviewer? It wasn't because I was bad at the job. They cut the role and they made it go away. And I was really good at it for the really short period of time they let me do it.
Right. So yeah, so again, we have somebody in the room who's experienced exactly what I'm talking about. And we work with unemployed Albertans and have for many years, and they'll say to me, I can't apply for this job, I'm not qualified. And I'll say, reread it differently.
Peggy, a lot of times people who are creating job descriptions put things in there that in fact are not required, are not important, but they think they're supposed to. So a good job description says this, and
Or they're using a 5-year-old job description.
Yeah,
They've
exactly.
never updated it to reflect what they're doing now.
exactly, and sometimes you're going to weed out people that are good people because of something that really, just as an example, some jobs say must have driver's license, but in fact they never drive. That's a completely bogus requirement. Sometimes people put it in there to screen out whatever, people maybe who had DUIs or something, I don't know. But the reality is if you have something in that job description that's not relevant, you're going to cut out that number of good people that you possibly could have.
The other side of that though is, for me, I apply for every job, every HR job, and even though I'm only qualified for maybe half or 3/4 of them, so then I think, like, are they just throwing my resume in the garbage, or are they, like, I'm not trying to mislead them, but if that were a case, maybe there's a few things in there.
But even if they threw it in the garbage, so what? Like, a lot of times, it's kind of like dating, so maybe you didn't, Brad Pitt's now available.
Yes, yes. Hence, I dressed up today.
So maybe it doesn't really matter, like, you try anyway. Like, what does it cost you to apply for a job?
Getting tired of seeing my name.
No.
Oh, it always hurts.
They'll see it as persistent. And you're not done your training yet, right? So you're just trying to get into that. Yeah, no, keep trying, definitely. And depends what systems they use for looking at the resumes. That's another whole ball of wax. I mean, that's one thing. We'll sit down in our office. Oh my God, we disagree about resumes every day. It is our sore spot because we actually put resumes out, but it's a toughie. What does that piece of paper truly tell you? So again, by meeting them, and again, our interview style is different. When you come in for an interview in our company, I'm going to watch you. They are going to take notes. They're looking for different things, and then we collaborate. And again, that's why it's important to have different people interviewing as well. So you're not slanted to having one type. One type teams are very hard to move ahead or do anything different, because whatever they value it strongly, and there's no pull to the opposite end. So you want to try to keep that balance. Your team, and we'll talk about that in retention strategy, will also get a culture just from your type, depending on the amount. It's different for each. But when you talked about the ad, yeah, I just talked to a company, paving company, and they are struggling to find employees. I mean, definitely the older employees are there, but they are really struggling. And that's one of their prerequisites, is you need a driver's license, not to get to work, to get to the shop. So the ad should say, must be able to get to the shop, because we have some really good people who haven't gotten parents, they've just never gotten a driver's license. Like, anybody here from Saskatchewan? Yeah, everybody has a driver's license in Saskatchewan.
Unfathomable to me that I have 3 friends with no driver's license, and I'm like, how?
Exactly. Now, in our defense, it's in our school system. So everybody has one, and you come to Alberta and there's a amount of people, good people that don't have them. So that company, because we have one great guy, which we're going to try to market, who does not have a driver's license, he will have no problem getting to the shop though. And he's an amazing worker. So again, really get rid of the crap in the ad. Take out the stuff that is not important. Don't ask for those 4 people, because people will get confused and you're not probably going to be hiring the right person then. Be really honest.
And say what the job is.
Honestly.
How frustrating is it to apply for a job when you don't even know what you're going to be doing on the other end? My current role, if I just read the job description, I would have no idea what the job was. My husband used to work in my role, so I knew exactly what the job was to a T, minus a couple of tweaks they've done over the last 3-4 years since he was in it. But I knew what I was applying for, which made me the perfect candidate because I knew how to interview for the job. But at the end of the day, reading the job description, nobody else would have known what this job is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Be really accurate and get a stranger to read. Somebody who knows nothing about your business, hand them that job description and say, what do you think this is? Because, going through and having many different personality types that you're requiring is going to get you a lot of confusion and maybe totally the wrong person. Okay, so the right bait, and that's we just talked about that, having the exact words that are going to appeal to that type. So how many of you in your company have done some kind of type tool? So a few. So yeah, Lisa, the chamber does it regularly. We just did mapping with them, and that's where they were my practice on the mapping, and it can get better, but I definitely seen value in it when I looked at our company. And if we have a position that comes open, we need to really look at what we're already hiring and how that's going to sway our company. And do we need somebody different, something different? And use the mapping to do that. So yeah, use the exact words. Okay. So this is interesting because I do a lot of trades, construction, I was thinking about this. And I totally believe In our organization at Being Human, I don't need to hire people with the skill. I absolutely believe that. I believe if I hire a motivated attitude, we can teach skill. And I would guess that for Canalta as well. Motivation would be the number one thing if they're teachable. That's not the case in the trades. If you can't drywall, you can't do the job. I can train and help somebody move ahead and learn that skill, but truly there's an area where the skill is more important than the personality, and there's just no doubt about it. I've been doing trades 35 years and this 23, and I've had some unskilled workers, and it makes a site a disaster. So that's the other thing you need to look at, because if I can get somebody who's highly skilled but doesn't really get along with people in the trades, I may hire him, but also make sure that his schedule is fairly isolated. Not put him in that high bustle environment where 20 people are trying to work. So you need to look at that. However, in our office, if they've got the potential to learn, the personality to me becomes equally as important. And I was gonna ask, is that something you run into, is people say you don't have the skill, the experience?
Well, they haven't said it to my face, but having the resume, I know that I don't. As far as education goes, I've been free and I'm just finishing this off, but other than just basic admin, that's, I don't have the experience, right? In resources, but yeah.
Yeah, we took a risk on that. We hired somebody who took the training, but had never had the job. So there's gonna be a learning curve. So again, you need to decide, are you willing to go through that?
It's that nasty trap of you need experience to get experience. And I have a ton of management experience, and I was actually gonna ask you earlier, do you ever see a problem where there's an us versus them between management and HR?
All the time.
And what's frustrating for me is a lot of the organizations I've worked for, our HR is invisible. It's way up here. We don't really see it. So our managers at each individual location handle most of the HR functions. And no matter what I do with my resume, people can't see that. I've recruited, I've hired, I've fired, I've had to do some types of strategic planning. I've had to do that because I've had to be in charge of my individual location. And people don't get that the management skills translate into HR skills.
And that's exactly what I have too,
Yeah.
whereas they don't see it as a specific job.
Yeah, they look at the word management and go, oh, you don't know what you're doing. And I'm like, it's the same thing. In the way I've done it, it's the same thing.
And are you going after HR-based roles?
Yes, yeah.
That's chronic in HR,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
It's frustrating.
Yeah.
What if you change the heading to transferable skills?
That would be an excellent way to do it. I have had a professionally done resume. We moved here from Saskatchewan for my husband's role, and his organization offered professional resume services to me as a spouse relocating and therefore looking for work. It didn't matter that I was technically out of work already. So I have a professionally done resume, and still I couldn't. And to be fair, we came just as everything was turning over and there just wasn't really anything. I applied for a few and never really heard anything back on most of them.
Yeah, because that's what you're talking about, is your transferable skills.
And it is.
Yeah. And again, see, that was me being very open to a resume not looking like anything else. We actually got a really, really amazing resume not too long ago from a graphic designer. Did you see it, Pam? It was in a box. Yeah, you take the lid off, it says, there's a great idea in the box, you take it off and you open it up and here's her resume. I mean, you know what, but based on what she's looking for, that was a great resume. So, just back, again, we're gonna finish this up and then we'll take a break and we'll go into the second part. Just for those of you who don't know, Rhonda's on here, but Rhonda was called away in an emergency. So being orange or the ESTP, I quickly just put something together for you. So if it doesn't go well, oh, it's not my fault. Okay. So we need to put in perspective, and it goes beyond skill. You need to hire the right person because your team dynamics need to work together. 85% of people leave their job because they can't get along with someone. And I'll just give you an example. If you look here on this chart, you're gonna see that this is F's in the middle and your T's are on the outside. That is how we make our decisions. F's make it on relative worth on how it affects people or their heart. T's make it on logic. Managers often are T's. And because T's don't need a pat on the back, they tend not to give a pat on the back. So Fs leave their jobs and they come to us and they're like, my employer didn't value me. What do you mean they didn't value you? Well, they didn't tell me. And the truth is the employer is shocked. They had no idea that they didn't feel valued. Because what makes me feel valued is not going to make somebody different than me feel valued. So you really got to look at that. I think, too, the best example we have, we'd been rolling along about 3 years. And we didn't have any birthday funds. We didn't really have any reward or recognition going on. I mean, we do it. We verbally do it, but nothing planned. And we hired this new person and totally has fallen into that role. Now we have birthday funds and she's going to do the Christmas party. That's important to her. And as a company, we were open enough to let her do that, right? To let her engage in those activities. So that's important too, is that when somebody comes in and they're telling you what's important to them if you're listening.
And these are not necessarily ever on the job description.
No.
This is about the personality of the people.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, recognizing what you want on your job description, using the exact language, be clear. I don't think they need to be fancy. Again, the amount of people that you're missing out on by maybe trying to make them look fancy, professional versus realistic, this is what you're gonna do. And then getting that right person using that bait. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this one.